Welcome back into the Front Room, Season 2 here, the beginning of Season 2. And the music, yes, you hear the music? Oh, yeah. Ah, yes. We all want to be in with the in crowd. You know, as I grow old, I feel less and less like I'm involved in the in crowd. I used to think I was such a hotshot when I was a young kid.
But what if you are the in crowd? Then you don't have to be in with it. You're setting it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You make me feel good. That's why I love you. And my lovely wife, Marlo, my own person, Yoko. Right here in the Front Room, Season 2. No, fact being, when you're young, you're always looking for action. You always want to be in with the in crowd. You always think you're missing out on something. Didn't you ever feel that way when you were a young kid?
I'm the wrong person to ask about that.
Well, just say when you were in high school, did you always feel you had to go out or you wanted to be out because there was a concert, or if you weren't there, if you weren't at the party, you were going to be missing out?
I wasn't invited to the parties. This is why I'm the wrong person to ask this stuff.
You were cool people, man.
I
listen. You think I was cool all the time?
Hold on. I made my own stuff with my own friends. I did not hang out with the popular kids. I didn't do what they liked. I did my own thing. I listened to music they didn't like. I didn't. Right. I created my own in crowd.
Well, let me tell you something, women's.
Yeah.
I was a dweeb in grade school.
Yeah, but you weren't bullied because you were bigger than everyone.
Kids would still pick on you, even if you were a tall dude. You know, they make fun of you or something like that. I mean, it has happened. In grade school, I wasn't good at sports. I was kind of similar to what you were, because I had certain friends we'd get involved, and I was more into music. And most kids, when you're growing up in the 60s or 70s, were into sports, and you had to play football and baseball. And I tried out for the Little League, and I didn't make it. You know, the coach just said, "You stink." That's what he told me. "You stink. Go home." And my friend, I don't want to mention his name, but Jimmy Pazuchek, he'd always come by. "Why don't you play catch? Why don't you come out and play?" I go, "Because I want to play drums." So I would go out and do that, and I would go, it's stupid. I'm horrible at it. So I did what
you felt you were good at, what you enjoyed.
Yeah. So I'd like to build things. I'd always be in the house. I was more indoorsy. I stayed, even though we went out, I had the mini bike, and as you get older, a teenager, you want to go out and get the action. So as you got older, you did find friends.
I did. I had friends. I wasn't in with the in crowd, though.
I get that. And I wasn't either, because, listen, in high school, the in crowd were the jocks. The in crowd were the cheerleaders, those types.
Yeah.
You know, but then, as we became sophomores and juniors, I got in with the crowd that was playing the rock music in the band. Then I got with older guys. So all the younger people in my age group, I was hanging out with people that were 3, 4, 5 years older than I, playing in these orchestras. And that was my link to being in with the in crowd, because these older people didn't care about an in crowd. It was just them doing what they do. Like you said earlier, you make your own in crowd. You sometimes want to hang out with younger people to find out
what's going on with them,
what the action is, if there's a scene happening. We haven't had a scene happening anywhere in a long time. The last thing I remember as a sort of scene, I know in the 90s in New York City, there was kind of a rockabilly scene, late 80s, early 90s, where this whole rockabilly thing was happening, and people were gathering, and they'd get all dressed up and come out, and there were quite a lot of clubs were involved. There were like 10, 15 places in East Village and Lower East Side. And then here too, when I remember in the 2000s, there was a surf scene happening, surf/rockabilly. The car shows, you go to the car shows. It wasn't like the car shows now where they got, don't touch the car, don't even look, you looked at it. We had these car shows where these dudes would have the cars blowing flames out of the back,
from groups called Coffin Dragger, with a hearse and things like that.
And then you'd have the surf instrumental bands playing, and there was a whole scene where everyone would kind of dress
and the go-go dancers.
That was kind of cool. That was the last kind of scene I remember happening around. Now, it's less sex, drugs, and rock and roll, more naps, bottled water, and
it also seems like The big thing where we live is
Here in Northwest Indiana.
Northwest Indiana.
Right outside of Chicago.
It's cover bands.
A lot of cover bands.
Nobody even goes to see real bands anymore. They just go to see cover bands. And I
have nothing against the cover bands. It's just not my scene.
It's not my scene, and it's also, if I don't like the original band, I'm not going to see a cover of them.
I'm going to talk a little bit about music because I'm a musician. And I've been playing a long time since I was a little kid. In the late 60s, I was still, only 10, 11, 12. I was born in 57. We were playing, that's how we started, when little kids in the basement, let's play the Monkees, and I like the Rolling Stones. My dad's like, don't be sniffing the glue. I liked all that. But then by the time I was about 12 or 13, I started thinking, I have to find some guys where we could make our own stuff up. Because we weren't going to get a record deal playing cover songs. Music. Yeah. So early on, maybe by the time I was 14, I said, hey, let's try and write some of our own crap. And I said, let's try and piece something together and make a go of it. So that was always my angle. I'd rather create something, because that's the fun part for me, that's the fun part about it, is the creating of it. Just like you creating a dance piece or something. And I'm not putting down people who do cover bands. It's fine. And it wasn't
for you.
No, it wasn't. It never was. And I never...
You didn't just wanted to play, you wanted to create. And there was a difference there.
And if you want to make a living out of it, you could eke a living out playing covers. And many bands do. And some of these cover bands, these Pink Floyd cover bands and Tom Petty ones, they make a good buck. Because they're good at what they do. I'd rather see a guy standing on a chair with 3 legs, standing on one leg playing a banjo, and have a mallet glued to his head hitting a bass drum with some white noise in the background. I'd be happy with that, because that's what in New York I used to go see all this kind of odd stuff,
like art stuff.
You would go see it and you'd be, what the heck is this?
I think my problem is it's not that it's a cover band, but it's a Tom Petty cover band. Great. I don't like Tom Petty, so
you like Susie and the Banshees, and a lot of people don't like Susie and the Banshees.
Exactly.
So
it's not my style. It's not my style at all. It never has been.
Everybody has their cup of meat. The odd thing is when I watch television in the morning, the news, they sometimes talk about a concert coming to town, or like we just had Lollapalooza here in the Chicago area that comes every year, and the newscasters, sometimes they'll put a song on as a segue out. And in my lifetime, when the news was on in the 70s, it wasn't like you'd hear a Deep Purple song segueing out to spots. You wouldn't really hear anything but that news music. Dun, 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 dun. We'll be right back right here, Channel 7 News, after a word from our sponsor. Yes, Oprah Snot Bubble. No. What? Now they play music, and I'm like, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. I'm like, what is that sound? Please stop it, because it usually has that vocoder or that, what is that?
Oh, the
save the auto-tune. And I cannot stand the auto-tune. It was meant to be an effect, not a crutch, and it has turned into it's the voice of Gen Z. It's
turned into a nightmare.
When you see these award shows come on, or they're talking about Lollapalooza, I think I know two, maybe 3 bands, 2 bands that I've know of and heard of. One band I heard of but don't know what they sound like, and the rest I don't even know.
We were at lunch and we walked by one of the Chainsmokers, who was a band that was at Lollapalooza. I've heard of them. I don't know anything by them. One of the girls I was with Googled it and said, yeah, that's totally him. So I came back to work and I had to Google them, and I said, oh, there are 2 guys in the band. I said, oh, we ran into Andrew so-and-so. And she commented, she goes, no, it was actually Alex. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know.
Being a musician, I never claimed to be a musicologist. There were certain things I liked. And actually, I really don't listen to any music these days, not much. And when I try and listen to some of the newer music. As a musician, I don't know squat about music today. Nothing. I got nothing. All I do is sit here, and we have our Kids on Goop thing. I do some other projects with some other people that I'm affiliated with. We got the Matter Rose thing, my old band from the 90s, a new record coming out in 2019, first one in 20 years.
2020. Oh, no, it's coming out in 2019. 2020 is the 25th anniversary of your second album.
Right.
I'm screwing up my dates.
primarily, is it the second, what'd you say, 25th anniversary?
The 2020 will be the 25th anniversary of Panic On.
94 that came out.
94, 2004, 2014, 2019, 25th anniversary.
Oh, this year. Okay, so okay.
I know I suck at math, but I checked it.
Anyway, I feel so out of touch. Like I said, I don't know.
You're out of touch.
I like that song. See, that's a funny thing too. Growing up, there were songs that I hated. Growing up, I wasn't an ABBA fan when I was very young. I turned
them.
Well, I like them now. You know, I would see them in a minute if they came along. There were quite a few bands you kind of liked, but you didn't want to let your friends know you liked.
Admit it.
Yeah. You know, if you're in the car by yourself, you roll up the windows, turn the air conditioner on, even though it was wintertime, and blast it a little bit, and it's Barry Manilow. You know, Bee Gees. I always liked the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
Even though disco sucked, they had that whole disco sucks thing going on.
I'm one of the few that will admit that I loved and still love the Bay City Rollers.
Yeah, I always liked them. I actually liked that. They were kind of that...
SATUR.
Right.
BAY.
Glam rock. They
Scottish.
were glam rock. They were more
A
in
little
the glam.
bit.
Yeah, they had the glam rock thing.
Scottish glam rock.
Big tall shoes and all that. Can I just say one other thing?
Sure. It's your show.
Can we let Woodstock die?
I think it did. It's officially been canceled. The 50th anniversary has been canceled.
Well, they're having one in a town nearby us.
That's going to be a mini something, or I don't even know what that is because
it's a cover band thing. It's all cover
The
bands.
actual Woodstock that they were going to do the third one of has been canceled. All the sponsors pulled out. Everything.
Here's the thing about Woodstock.
Pulled out.
I think I was 11 or 12 when Woodstock was happening.
I wasn't alive.
And I know a couple of my friends went there. Mm-hmm. People on the block, a couple girls I knew that were maybe 6-7 years older than I. They went to Woodstock, and I asked them. I said, "Was it cool?" "Oh yeah, it's cool." Listen, when you're a kid, anything's cool when you're a kid. This is really cool. We have no house. We have no food. We're out in the middle of nowhere. We have no idea where we are. Our car's gone. It's raining. It's muddy. We lost our shoes.
There's a porta potty.
And this is cool.
Even that's not cool.
It would have been cool for me at that age because you just wanted to get out of the house. But we should just let Woodstock die because it happened once. You can't recapture that. It's like they're trying to recapture everything. Come
up with something new.
We need a new scene. Start something. And the scene in music today is horrendous. I just have to say, I can't tell bands apart from each other because they're all produced the same way.
They sound the same.
I say, you can't bring Woodstock back. You can't bring CBGBs back. We have to let it all go and move on.
Create something new.
Now, you could buy the Matter Rose album.
The MP3 will be available April 19th. Available on MP3.
I don't even listen to the music I do. I don't even listen to the music I do.
I asked her, what song is being released? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. She's like, you did 9 songs. When did you do those? I go, I don't know. I think we did a couple years ago.
Well, because that's the thing. You guys worked on 6 songs, and you said, well, the album has 9 songs. I go,
well, we had a different deal.
Did they choose 3 songs that you didn't play on as the drummer?
Probably. Yeah, that's probably what happened. Look for a new scene. Look for a new scene in music. Try and broaden your horizons. I've bought albums just by the artwork on the album cover.
I've done that.
Yeah,
I've done that.
And sometimes you put it on and you go, oh, that's $6 down the drain.
There have been bands that I brag about what the vinyl I have in our basement. A lot of weirdo one-off bands that it was just something different that I wanted to hear. Yeah. And I threaten to play it for him every day.
Well, she shows me a lot of stuff. I've shown her stuff that she doesn't really care for, some of the progressive stuff and all
Gentle
that.
Giant.
Gentle Giant was awesome. Got to see them quite a few times. But there's a lot of bands you play, and I'm like, what is this? But you could eke out that niche. You could find that niche, and you can make it work for you. So that's what I try to tell young people.
Find your own niche and make it happen.
Yes, make it happen. Make it work.
Thank you, Tim Gunn.
Tim Gunn.
Thank you, Tim Gunn.
So differences in music. Everybody has different flavors and styles, and music hits people in all different ways. A song may mean love to you and may mean hate to someone else. It may mean a wedding song. It may mean a funeral song. So it's all how you read it.
It may sound like a love song, but it's really about a stalker.
Right. A lot of people read songs differently. They just like the melody and hum it. Oh, what's he saying? I'm not sure. But music shall be what it is. But let's find a new scene. A new scene. Families, differences in families. I've noticed this. And recently, you had all your cousins by our house.
Not all, about a tenth, but yes.
Yeah, we had
Quite
all the girls. All the girls came
Quite
by.
a few, but I have a very large family, so.
And Cot and I have been married since 2002. We've been dating since 96. So we've been together quite a long time, and we know each other's families quite well.
Yes.
And there are differences with all families.
Oh, yeah.
I love going to family functions because we'll be sitting at the table, and I'll go, do you see what they're doing? You know,
What the hell is going on over there?
What are they serving that for?
Rick and I have become experts in talking without moving our mouths.
Yes, because that's what the fun is.
Rick, look at your cousin over there. What the hell is he doing?
What about the old knee knock?
Oh my gosh.
The old knee knock, right? You go like
the knee under the table. You're like,
yeah. Listen, look at what they're doing. Yeah, look what she has.
or if it's something, I'll actually get the knee squeeze from you.
Yes, right. Yeah, you gotta look.
Oh,
Where? You gotta go. Oh,
So if you're out to dinner with us, you might catch some of this if you look closely.
However, the differences in families could be somewhat traditions. And I noticed some differences in our families.
Oh, yes.
And the one thing, I know it sounds silly, but my family being Polish,
Yes.
on both sides, all around,
Yes.
Polish, and yours being
Croatian all the way around.
Croatian. There are differences. And the biggest thing I noticed is when we'd have a function at our house when we were young, all your uncles and aunts would bring food. You know, my parents go, yeah, we're going to have a dinner. What do you want us to bring, right? All right, I'll bring some desserts or something like that. Bring, some snacks, cakes. There are always a lot of cakes.
Yes.
And my Auntie Regina and Auntie Helen and Chachamania, they'd all bring pastries and cakes. And our family would just bring like a paper plate with a cake on it, and then foil with toothpicks.
Yes.
So it wouldn't get on the icing.
Yes.
And the biggest thing I noticed with Cot's family is that they walked in and they had this high-end Tupperware that I've never seen in my life.
It's a cake saver.
I remember your sister walked in.
My sister makes tons of
Wonderful cakes. Oh, she makes the best cheesecake in the world.
cheesecakes from scratch. But
She should open up her own business with cheesecakes.
It's a giant Tupperware top with a base, and it loops around, and there's a handle.
Yeah, I mean, I answered the door, and this is early on when
Yeah.
And she goes, "Here, can you grab this?" I go, "What is this? What is?
It's like luggage.
Is this a suitcase?
It actually looks like a piece of luggage.
It looks like a makeup suitcase or something." I go, "What is this?" She goes, "It's cake." I go, "Cake? How much did this cost?" What is it, like $85 just for the Tupperware container?
It's called the
and
cake
it has
saver.
snaps. It has airfoils. It has.
It's got an engine.
Air release. Don't release it yet. The cake will go. You have an air release. And all her relatives were bringing all kinds of. I go, "We get to keep these?"
No! You have to give them back.
You know, I'm a Tupperware whore.
There's like Corningware and my dad sent over something that was in a glass Corningware with a top that slid off in another container that zipped shut and had handles.
It's unbelievable. I mean, my family used paper plates. Not even the good paper plates. I mean, these were
The paper ones, the see-through.
Here, my mom would go, "Get it, here, put it on a paper plate." I'd be like, "Mom, this is loose leaf." And even the names drawn on the Tupperware.
Yes. Well, to make sure they get it back.
The magic marker.
To make sure they get
Now,
it back.
the oddest thing is we have acquired a piece of Corningware,
Yes.
I think from your father and mother.
Yeah.
And I took it out of the oven, stinking hot, and we finished, and I turn it over, and there's a piece of tape on the bottom with the name. I go, "We just put tape in there?"
It's still on there. It won't come off.
Unbelievable.
It was my grandma's.
Now, Cot's family was big on desserts.
Huge.
Our family, we had desserts, but we were more...
Is there any wonder there's some diabetic issues in my family?
My family was more of the
Salted cured meat.
Yeah, they bring. What did you bring? I brought ham and sausage. Great, put her over there.
Do you have any salami? Yes, excellent.
Uncle Jeannie comes in. What'd you bring? Ham and sausage. Put it on top of this one. Then all of a sudden, Uncle Joe comes in, my 7th Uncle Joe. I had 7 of them. What'd you bring? Ham and sausage. Smoked. Good. Put it on this side.
Yep.
Oh, unbelievable.
Explains a lot.
And one thing I do notice with our families, your family, with the exception of you, moderate drinkers. On the other hand,
this is why I fit in so well with your family.
On the other hand, my side of the family, heavy drinkers.
Now, keep in mind, I used to, before you and I ever met, I used to be home from Purdue and hang with your niece at your sister's house drinking with your mom.
Right.
Before I ever met you.
Before you ever met me.
Which is why she loved me.
Right. I remember some of my parents' parties, and they were probably in their late 30s, and this would have pegged me for maybe 7 years old. They were maybe early 40s, and they would have these big blowouts at the Hegwish house. My father's side of the family, especially, and my mother's side, some of them were pretty heavy on the booze. And there were a few that were kind of more teetotalers. And when we'd have a party, my father called it a blowout at the house. He used to have these 3-day bashes around 4th of July because it was my mom's birthday plus the 4th of July.
Can I just point out, you always say 3-day bash and you hold up 5 fingers?
Well, I'm going through it like this. And they'd have a 3-day bash because sometimes it did turn into 5.
Yes.
A 3-day bash on that holiday, and then we had that swimming pool with the big deck and whole party house.
Party.
And all I remember is I would wake up in the morning. I go, Mama, is there any food? And just like shifting bottles from now until doomsday. The biggest thing we had was the booze. There got to be booze, and even that bled into my teenage years. I remember parties when we were young. We never had food. Would you bring? Okay, what do you want to bring? Booze. Maybe a couple tabs of acid, something like that. We never ate. I remember going 3-4 days without eating.
Now, the interesting thing, and I think it was the older generation in my family, they were more heavy drinkers because there would be, my dad had a bar in the basement, and when we had people over, he's mixing drinks, and it wasn't just beer. I mean, he was mixing drinks. He
Cocktails,
was bartending. Yeah, he had cocktails. And that was always a thing, getting the bar ready.
My family didn't only do beer. They were highballs and mixed drinks and daiquiris.
They did drink. It was
Tom Collins.
I think it was, like I said, it was the older generation. I don't know. I'll make up for the rest of them.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in the front room. I just want to leave you with a few words.
Okay.
Just a few words. Do. That's one word. That's one word. I just want to say one thing to the world, to all of you, to all you listeners out there. My wife and I express ourselves in these words. If folks can just set aside their agendas and listen to one another instead of just themselves, maybe, just maybe, the world would be a better place. And that's going to you.
Cheers to that.
You've been in the front room with yours truly, Rick Kubic, and my lovely wife,
me,
Kat Marlow, my own personal Yoko.
No go. That was a preemptive no go. I don't care. We'll see you next time.
Right here in the front room. You take care.